She opened the door expecting an Amazon package. Instead, a man in a navy blazer handed her a thick envelope, looked her dead in the eye, and said, "You've officially been served." Then he turned around and left without another word. I was watching from 140 miles away on my laptop. My lawyer set up the private stream, one of those doorbell cams I installed years ago when porch pirates became a thing. It had never seen anything interesting. Until now. Leslie just stood there, barefoot on the welcome mat, blinking at the papers like they were written in another language. She looked small, caught off guard. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. Then she stepped back inside and shut the door. I paused the video. Let me be clear, this wasn't some dramatic revenge plan. There was no grand scheme. No explosive betrayal with hotel rooms and lipstick-stained shirts. It was worse than that. It was subtle. Creeping. Death by 1,000 emojis. I found out about her friendship with Nolan when she accidentally sent a message meant for him to me. It just said, "You make school drop-offs dangerously fun." That's it. Harmless, maybe. But the timing was suspicious. 7:52 a.m., right after she got back from dropping our daughter off. I replied, "Wrong person?" She didn't text back for 20 minutes. Then, haha, oops. I was just being silly. Meant to text another mom. Right. But curiosity has claws. So I checked the iPad. You know, the one we barely use, but that's still linked to her messages. It was all there. Weeks of texts between her and Nolan, the dad with the overly white teeth and the Range Rover that somehow always blocked the school crosswalk. Their messages weren't dirty, but they had this rhythm. Like two people playing house behind their spouses' backs. "Missed you this morning. Did you see the look your husband gave us?" Grinning face with sweat. If we had met before all this, do you think it would have worked? I stopped reading. I didn't confront her. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I did something worse. I disconnected. Completely. I left town the next day. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't even take my toothbrush. I drove 6 hours to my cousin's apartment in DC, sat on his couch in silence, and when he asked what happened, I just said, "I need to make her feel what it's like to be left behind." He helped me find a lawyer. One that moves fast and quiet. And now she's served. But here's the part she'll never see coming. Nolan has secrets of his own. And I've already contacted his ex-wife. She didn't call me. Not after getting the papers. Not even a text. But I know her well enough to picture it. The pacing in the hallway. The hushed voice to her sister. The sound of her dropping her coffee mug because her hands were shaking. Leslie has always hated surprises. And this one was nuclear. I stayed off-grid for 2 more days. No social media. No contact. Just walks around DC with a hood over my head and thoughts crawling all over me like ants. You ever have your mind loop the same 5 seconds over and over? That's what it was like. The image of her smirking at a message. Laughing at something Nolan sent. Rolling her eyes at something I said and forwarding it to him. Like I was some side character in my own marriage. But the weirdest part? I didn't feel angry. I felt replaced. The night I left, I didn't pack anything except my passport, my laptop, and something I never thought I'd use, her old iPhone. She gave it to me a year ago when she upgraded. Said I could use it as a backup or give it to our daughter for games. I tossed it in a drawer and forgot about it. Turns out she didn't. The thing still had access to her iCloud. And that's how I found the videos. They were buried deep in a shared folder called Field Trip Pics. I almost skipped it. But something told me to open it. The first few were innocent, kids at a pumpkin patch, Nolan holding a tray of juice boxes, Leslie laughing with another mom. But the 5th video? That one changed everything. It was vertical, shaky, clearly not filmed by her. She's sitting in a car, Nolan's car, and she's saying, "This is stupid, we're going to get caught," but she's smiling. Nervous. Flushed. Her hand is on his leg. He leans in and says, "Then stop showing up looking like that." Cut to black. I stopped breathing for a second. I didn't even realize my hand was shaking until I almost dropped the phone. You think you're prepared for proof. You're not. Seeing it, hearing it, it cuts in a way that screenshots don't. It rewires you. I showed it to my cousin. He didn't say anything for a while. Then he said, "You need to talk to Nolan's ex." That's when I learned something else. Turns out, Nolan's ex-wife, Erin, isn't just some bitter ex living across town. She's got a restraining order against him in Maryland. Something about repeated emotional harassment after the divorce. He was never charged, but the reports are public if you dig enough. So I did. And Erin answered my message. She invited me to meet in person. Said she had information that might change everything. Tomorrow, I'm taking a train out to see her. If what she tells me is half as bad as I think, this won't just end in divorce. This could blow up everything Nolan's trying to build, and Leslie won't be just a participant anymore. She'll be a liability. The train ride to Silver Spring was quiet. Too quiet. I sat by the window, headphones in but no music playing, just using them as armor so nobody would talk to me. I kept thinking about the video, the way Leslie's voice dropped when she said they might get caught, but still smiled like the risk turned her on. That wasn't the woman I married. That wasn't the woman who used to double knot my daughter's sneakers and leave sticky notes in my lunchbox with little hearts. But maybe that version of her never existed. Erin met me at a small diner tucked behind an office park. She looked like someone who had been through a storm and had no intention of pretending otherwise. She didn't ask how I found her or why I reached out. She just sat down, ordered tea, and said, "I guess this is your turn now." I didn't know what to say, so I let her talk. Apparently, when Nolan's marriage began falling apart, he didn't handle rejection well. Erin said he became obsessed with proving he was still desirable, still wanted. After she filed for separation, he started reconnecting with moms from their kids' old school. Sometimes with single moms. Often with married ones. She found out about at least 2 women, both of whom eventually ghosted him when he started getting too intense. But that's the pattern, she said. He goes after women who are bored or feel invisible. And then when they try to pull back, he doesn't let go. I told her about Leslie. Erin just gave a slow, sad smile. That's 3 now. That's when she slid something across the table, an old phone. Her old phone, actually. She had backed up her messages before turning it off. She said it was probably illegal to share most of it, but that I needed to see the kind of person Nolan turns into when he stops feeling in control. There were screenshots. Dozens of them. One in particular froze my spine. Nolan had texted Erin a few months after their divorce. "You think this is over? I've already started planting roots in places you never looked." The date on that message? A week before Harper switched schools. A week before Leslie and Nolan even met, officially. It felt like something out of a thriller. Like maybe this wasn't a random flirtation between 2 parents. What if she was just next? Erin leaned in and said he knows how to find women like Leslie. Smart enough to hide it. Bored enough to bite. He doesn't just seduce, he studies. I left that meeting with more than I came for. I had names. Context. Even the possibility that Nolan had been manipulating Leslie from day one. But I also knew something else. Leslie wasn't innocent. You don't send selfies at midnight to a man you barely know because you're confused. You don't lie about where you've been for the 5th Saturday in a row because of an innocent connection. You don't giggle in a stranger's car and talk about getting caught unless, on some level, you want to. Still, the idea that Nolan might be doing this on purpose, repeatedly, deliberately, turned everything sideways. I took the phone Erin gave me and forwarded some of the messages to my lawyer. He called me 10 minutes later and said, "This might change the tone of the case." Not long after, I got a notification from my doorbell camera back home. Leslie was standing outside on the porch again. This time pacing. Her face blotchy. Her phone glued to her ear. She wasn't watering plants. She wasn't pretending anymore. I turned up the audio feed. She was talking to Nolan. "No, you don't understand. He knows. He left days ago and hasn't come back. I think he might have found everything." She paused. Then, "No, he hasn't said a word to me. That's what scares me the most." She's right to be scared. Because the next thing she'll hear from me won't be a confrontation. It'll be a courtroom date. I got back to the apartment around midnight. My cousin had fallen asleep with the TV on. Some late-night court drama was playing, but I couldn't sit. My mind was too loud. I poured a glass of water, sat down at the kitchen counter, and opened my laptop. I didn't even know what I was looking for anymore. Proof? Closure? Or just a reason to finally let go? I started going through the backup files from Leslie's old iCloud account. Stuff I hadn't touched yet. She never changed her Apple password. I guess she trusted me more than I thought. Or maybe she just never imagined I'd turn into someone who'd go digging. That's when I saw it. An audio file. No title. Just a timestamp from 3 weeks ago. I almost didn't press play. I should have trusted that instinct. It started with background noise, wind, some traffic, maybe a park. Then her voice. "Leslie. You keep saying that, but you don't mean it." Then his. "Nolan. Come. Confident. Like he knew he was being recorded and didn't care. Nolan. What don't I mean? Leslie. That this is harmless. That we're not hurting anyone. Nolan. You don't look hurt. You look electric. There was a pause. A long one. You could hear footsteps. Maybe they were walking. Then Leslie again. You know he still folds my laundry? He leaves notes on the fridge. He tries so hard. I think that's what makes me feel the worst. Nolan. You want me to feel guilty for being the only thing that makes you feel alive? I slammed my laptop shut. That did it. That was the sentence that flipped the switch. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the fact that she knew I was trying. That I was still out there loving her in the only way I knew how. And she mocked it. Used it as contrast to how Nolan made her feel alive. I was done being the safe choice she could walk over while chasing some adrenaline high in a school parking lot. The next morning, I forwarded the audio file to my lawyer. He didn't respond in words. Just sent me a calendar invite titled, Strategy Meeting. By 10 a.m., I had a folder on my desk with a new header. Marital misconduct documentation. We weren't just filing for divorce anymore. We were making a case. But things took a turn I didn't expect. As I left the lawyer's office, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Then instinct made me answer. It was Nolan's ex-wife again, Erin. But her voice wasn't calm this time. Have you checked your daughter's school group chat today? No, I said, confused. You should. Now, something's happening. I opened the app on my phone, the one all the parents use for organizing playdates, field trips, fundraiser stuff. And there it was. A screenshot. A message from Nolan sent to someone named Megan. Your husband might be boring, but at least he isn't recording you like a psychopath. That message had been forwarded to the entire parent group. Everyone was commenting. Dozens of parents. Confused. Furious. Some asking if this was a joke. Others saying Nolan had crossed a line. One mom said her kid had mentioned hearing shouting during drop-off the day before. Another said she'd already reported Nolan to the principal for inappropriate behavior on campus. But the worst comment? It was from Leslie. This is completely out of context. Please stop spreading private things. She didn't deny it. Didn't apologize. Just damage control. I realized right then she was going to fight. Not for me. Not for us. But for control over how this ends. The story she tells. The version of herself she shows the world. And I've been too quiet. Not anymore. She wanted excitement. She wanted fire. She's about to see what it looks like when I finally burn the bridge she thought I'd always rebuild. 3 days after the group chat exploded, I got a message from Harper's homeroom teacher asking if we'd be attending the upcoming school showcase. It's something small the second graders do every spring. Some awkward music performances, a few art projects hanging on the walls, maybe a bake sale if someone's ambitious. Under normal circumstances, I'd have said no. Too much tension. Too many eyes. But these weren't normal circumstances. And I realized this was probably going to be the first time Leslie and I would be seen together in public since everything fell apart. I RSVP'd yes. When the night came, I wore the same shirt Leslie bought me 2 Christmases ago. Not because I was sentimental, but because I knew she'd notice. I wanted her to see how easily I could smile while carrying her silence like a backpack full of bricks. The gym was packed. Parents buzzing. Kids bouncing. Folding chairs scraping on tile floors. I saw Nolan standing near the juice table, laughing with 2 moms. Leslie wasn't next to him. She was across the room, staring at a glitter poster that said, "My family is special," in Harper's handwriting. The irony made my stomach turn. When she finally spotted me, she hesitated. Just for a second. But it was enough. Her posture shifted. She straightened her back like she was bracing for something. Then she walked over, trying to wear her usual calm. "Hey," she said. "I didn't think you'd come. You said that like it's a good thing." Her eyes narrowed. "Let's not do this here." "Why not?" I asked, still smiling. "You didn't mind doing that here." Her face flushed. Before she could respond, Harper ran up between us and tugged on my sleeve. "Daddy, I want to show you my volcano." I knelt beside her, gave her the biggest smile I could muster and said, "Lead the way, baby." As we walked past the juice table, Nolan's eyes landed on me. He didn't flinch. Just gave me that same smug little nod I'd seen in every text message, every flirtatious photo. Like he was untouchable. Like none of this touched him at all. But he was wrong. 10 minutes later, during Harper's class performance, the principal stepped up to the mic to thank all the parents for being part of a nurturing community. Just as she started her speech, one of the staff members, someone from admin I barely knew, walked up and whispered something in her ear. The principal's face stiffened. Then she calmly announced, "If I could speak with Nolan Gray and Leslie Fisher after the event, please see me in the front office." "Thank you." You could feel the shift in the room. Like all the air got sucked out. Leslie looked at me immediately, her jaw tight. Nolan didn't even blink. He just sipped his drink like it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. I'd sent a package anonymously to the school board the day before. No threats. No accusations. Just screenshots, dates, and the video of Leslie and Nolan in his car. Nothing graphic. Just enough to raise questions about boundaries, especially since they'd been meeting alone on campus after hours. After the performance, Leslie tried to follow me out to the parking lot. "Dwight, stop." I didn't. "Please just stop. You don't know what you're doing." I turned around. She was standing next to the chain-link fence with her coat half-buttoned, hair windblown, trying to keep her voice steady. I stepped closer, just enough so she had to lower hers. "Oh, I know exactly what I'm doing," I said. "I'm just not cleaning up your mess this time." "You're hurting Harper," she snapped. "No," I said softly. "You did that. When you made someone else more important than her father. When you made a playground your secret hiding place." She started to cry, but it was the dry kind. The kind that's more about losing control than feeling anything real. I walked away. That night, I got a message from another parent. A woman I barely knew but whose husband had apparently also received a string of texts from Nolan a year ago, texts that got weirdly personal, weirdly fast. She brushed it off. Now she wasn't so sure. By the time I went to bed, 3 different parents had contacted me, sharing their own stories. Nolan's world was starting to crack. And Leslie? She wasn't just on the sidelines anymore. She was the face of it. It was supposed to be a routine school board meeting. But by the time I parked across the street and saw the way people were crowding near the entrance, I knew something had shifted. Parents weren't trickling in with sleepy expressions and lukewarm coffee anymore. They were focused. Purposeful. Phones in hands. Whispers flying in every direction. I hadn't planned to attend the meeting. I'd already done enough damage from the shadows, hadn't I? The emails, the evidence, the quiet detonations placed in all the right inboxes. But curiosity pulled me out of the house that evening, almost against my will. When I walked in, the first face I saw was the principal's, tight-lipped and unusually pale. She nodded once, didn't smile. Just pointed toward the far end of the cafeteria where the PTA meeting was taking place. I slipped in and sat at the back unnoticed. Or so I thought. 5 minutes later, Leslie walked in. And for the first time in months, she looked scared. She didn't wear her usual PTA mom confidence. No styled hair, no flattering blouse. Just a sweater she clearly threw on in a hurry. She scanned the room and froze when she saw me. I didn't blink. She sat 2 rows ahead alone. Then Nolan entered. You know how some people walk like they think they own the floor beneath them? That was Nolan. Even now, with tension in the air so thick it could choke you, he strolled in like he was the main speaker. He nodded at 2 parents, smirked at a teacher, and slid into a seat beside Leslie like nothing was wrong. But something was very wrong. Because the principal stood and cleared her throat. Her voice cracked on the first word. Tonight's meeting will address serious concerns that have been brought to our attention involving the behavior of 2 individuals within our school community. The room fell into a heavy silence. You could hear someone's pen click from across the cafeteria. While we will not name names publicly, documentation has been submitted suggesting that multiple instances of inappropriate conduct have occurred on or near school property, conduct that violates both school policy and the trust of this community. Leslie shifted in her seat. Nolan didn't move. And then something happened that wasn't on the agenda. A parent, Melissa Dorr, stood up. A mom I'd only spoken to twice in my life. She held her phone high like she was presenting evidence in court. "I'm sorry," she said, "but we do need to name names. Because my kid was there when it happened. And I've seen the video." A ripple moved through the crowd like electricity. She turned toward Leslie and Nolan. "My son said he saw Mr. Gray's car parked behind the gym after dark multiple times. Once he even thought it was someone breaking in. But it wasn't. It was you too. And now our kids are part of your secret." Leslie's mouth opened but no words came out. Nolan stood up suddenly, trying to take control. Okay, this is getting out of hand. No, it's not, another mom snapped. It's finally being handled. Voices overlapped. People shouting. Teachers asking for calm. I sat still, letting it all unfold. This wasn't revenge anymore. It was exposure. This was the story revealing itself, no longer needing me to push it. Then someone said something that made Leslie spin around and look directly at me. He's not innocent either. I heard he's been collecting evidence for months. It was a man's voice, Alan Palmer, the PTA treasurer. His wife was one of Nolan's earlier targets. She'd admitted to texting him briefly before cutting it off. Alan had always been quiet. I guess he'd been waiting for someone else to light the match. Now all eyes were on me. I stood slowly, not because I wanted to defend myself, but because I wanted to finish what I started. You're right, I said calmly. I did collect things. Because I was trying to understand how my marriage collapsed while I was still sleeping in the same bed as the woman who dismantled it. Leslie's expression cracked. I didn't stop. I never wanted this to turn into a circus. I didn't leak anything to punish anyone. I just wanted to protect my daughter from the slow-motion disaster I saw coming. Then I looked directly at Nolan. You like playing games with other people's families. You think charm is a shield. But what you didn't realize is that a trail always leads back to the one holding the lighter. The meeting ended in chaos. Administrators called for order. Nolan walked out without another word. Leslie stayed seated, frozen. Later that night, I got a call from the school board's legal liaison. They were placing Nolan on a community restriction list, banned from school grounds indefinitely. As for Leslie, her name was mentioned in an internal letter about parental conduct monitoring, which I knew was a softer term for being watched. But here's the thing no one saw coming. The next day, I got an email from someone with a burner address. No name. No signature. Just one sentence. You don't know half of what she's done. Attached was a file. And what I saw inside. It made everything that happened so far look like child's play. I didn't open the file right away. The email sat there in my inbox like a ticking bomb. The subject line blank. The sender address random and meaningless. I stared at it for at least 20 minutes, pacing the apartment, asking myself if I really wanted to peel back yet another layer of this rotting mess. But deep down I already knew I was going to look. I had to. The file was a zip archive. Password protected. Inside the email was a single word. Harper. That was the password. I don't know why, but that hit harder than I expected. Whoever sent this knew that was the key I'd never ignore. Whoever they were, they knew how to get to me. When the archive opened, I found a folder labeled 2019 to 2022. Inside it were call logs, screenshots, PDFs, and a few audio recordings. All of it organized, too organized for someone just snooping. This was collected. Intentional. The first thing I opened was a PDF labeled Out-of-Town Travel Reimbursement. Leslie Fisher. It was a scanned receipt from a corporate event she attended in 2021. She'd told me it was a last-minute training weekend in Baltimore. Mandatory for her job. I even stayed home with Harper while she was away. But here's the thing. The hotel wasn't in Baltimore. It was in Arlington. Right across from Nolan's apartment complex. Coincidence? I kept digging. A folder labeled Audio, Hotel Room 421. There were 2 short recordings, low quality, but clear enough. You could hear laughing, clinking glasses, a man's voice, definitely Nolan's, saying something about how it was worth the wait. Then Leslie's voice. I can't believe how easy this was. She was tipsy, relaxed, happy. I sat completely still. The apartment felt cold. The light from the screen cast long shadows across the counter. I played that line again. I can't believe how easy this was. Easy. That word echoed in my head like a mocking drum. I clicked into the next file, screenshots of a group chat. Not between Leslie and Nolan, but Leslie and another woman. Her name wasn't familiar. Her profile picture was just a flower emoji. But the tone of the messages was unmistakable. Flower girl. You actually went through with it? Leslie. Yep. Didn't even have to lie that hard. Dwight just stays out of the way like always. Flower girl. So now what? Are you staying with Nolan? Leslie. God no. He's a great distraction, but I'd never actually date him. Flower girl. You're cold. Leslie. I'm practical. That's when I realized Nolan wasn't the real threat. Not entirely. Leslie wasn't some lovesick woman swept up in a forbidden affair. She was calculating. Cold. She knew what she was doing. And worse, she'd been enjoying it. And all this time I'd been trying to figure out what I did wrong. I thought back to the way she used to come home late and toss her shoes like nothing mattered. The way she started brushing off family plans. The way she never looked me in the eye when she said, "You worry too much." All of it was scripted. Then I found the last file. It was a scant note in handwriting I didn't recognize. A letter actually folded and photographed. It read, "Leslie, you told me you'd end things months ago. I'm not comfortable being part of whatever game you're playing. I'm done. Please don't drag me into this if your husband finds out." No name. No signature. Another man? How many distractions had she juggled while I stayed up late paying bills and making dentist appointments for Harper? How many secrets had she layered into our daily life while I smiled through dinner and folded laundry she never wore? That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the dark, the blue light of the laptop glowing faintly as if the screen itself was ashamed to be part of this. By morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. I was going to flip the script. Everyone in our lives had seen me as the quiet one. The safe one. The man too passive to see the storm brewing over his own roof. But storms don't destroy the silent. They reveal them. 3 weeks after everything imploded, I found myself back in the same park where Harper had once fallen off her bike and scraped both knees. I remember how Leslie had panicked, how I scooped our daughter up and whispered that everything would be fine, even when her blood stained my shirt. That memory hit differently now. It reminded me what real love looks like, messy, unfiltered, instinctive. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. A lot had changed since then. The school board officially banned Nolan from school grounds. Multiple parents came forward with stories of him making inappropriate advances, some recent, others buried for years. His polished image cracked, and so did Leslie's. But I never went public. I never aired out every ugly detail. I let the facts speak quietly and precisely. The video, the texts, the recordings. My lawyer delivered everything with the grace of a surgeon. No rage. No drama. Just the truth. Leslie, faced with overwhelming evidence, folded faster than I expected. No custody fight. No war over assets. She offered a settlement. I accepted. I asked for full custody of Harper with supervised visitation, and she didn't even blink. I think part of her was relieved. The game was over. She left our house with 2 suitcases and a look I'll never forget. Not regret. Not sadness. Emptiness. I didn't say goodbye. I just stood on the porch with Harper and watched her walk away. My daughter didn't cry. She didn't say much. She just held my hand and asked if we could go get pancakes. We did. In the weeks that followed, something strange happened. Peace returned. Not the dramatic kind with trumpets and closure speeches. Just quiet moments. A clean kitchen. A warm evening breeze through open windows. Harper falling asleep with her head on my chest as I read her the same book for the 3rd time. I still get questions from neighbors. Whispers in grocery store aisles. But I don't explain. I don't need to. The people who matter already know. One night, Harper asked me why Mommy doesn't live with us anymore. I told her the truth softly. Sometimes grown-ups make choices that break things. And sometimes we can't fix them. But it doesn't mean they don't love you. And it doesn't mean we stop being okay. She nodded like she understood more than she should. Then she whispered, "I'm glad you stayed." That was the moment I knew I hadn't lost. I had won the only thing that mattered. Now I wake up every morning and open the blinds to let the light in. The house doesn't feel hollow anymore. It feels real. Honest. I'm not angry. I'm not broken. I'm rebuilding with no secrets, no second guesses, and no one else's shadow hanging over me. I'm Dwight. A single dad. A quiet man. And I've never felt stronger in my life.